Hello and welcome to my debut episode of Music Goats. I'm DJ Ray, and beginning today, I'll be posting regular mini podcasts featuring some of the greatest of all time in various music categories. And with that, I'd like to jump right into this week's spotlight featuring the greatest performers of all time. One thing I'd like to mention before I get started is that I don't claim to know everything about music because I don't think there's a person in the world who can honestly make that claim. This show is simply based on my perspective, and I hope you'll allow me to share a DJ's point of view. That said, I couldn't think of a better theme to kick off my new series than the one I chose for week number 1, the greatest performers of all time. In my own opinion, being a skilled musician or singer doesn't necessarily make you a great performer. When it comes to music, fans often prefer a dynamic show, even over one's masterful instrumental skills, including vocals. Of course, some of my musician friends may disagree, but if you think about it from a fan's perspective, many would prefer to watch a rather average singer and musician like Gene Simmons from Kiss over a phenomenal bass guitarist like Bill Wyman of the Rolling Stones. Why, you ask? It's simple, actually. Unless you truly understand the artistic genius presented by Wyman, which most fans don't, you're left with a rather uninspiring performance. I mean, the guy's a member of the Rolling Stones, where every member was a character, even the late Charlie Watts, who did nothing but keep a straight face. The fact is that his straight face was his shtick. Wyman, on the other hand, played his guitar phenomenally, but really never stood out in a band that was loaded with characters like Mick Jagger and Keith Richards. On the other hand, you've got this rather average musician with less than optimum vocals, who dresses up like a demon and spits out fire. Truthfully, which artist do you think captivates their fans more at a concert? That said, I want to assure you that my most favorite artists are those who can do both, like Freddie Mercury, for example. Not only could he sing the phone book, but he was also one of the greatest onstage performers of all time. With that, there's nothing more that needs to be said. I really just wanted to clarify my distinction between an iconic performer versus a legendary musician. So let's move on and let me share with you my list of the greatest performers of all time. Obviously, I already leaked 2 of them by mentioning Gene Simmons of Kiss and the late Freddie Mercury from Queen. Starting with Gene Simmons, he was hands down one of the greatest performers ever. I mean, who else would put aside hours to dress up and apply all that makeup? I remember as a kid not only enjoying the party vibe that Kiss presented, but also the visual effects that came with it. Freddie Mercury, on the other hand, didn't really need to rely on any gimmicks. He was unique in the sense that he could wear a white t-shirt with tight jeans and knock your socks off when performing. Some performers didn't even need to sing in order to garnish most of their band's attention. Musicians like Angus Young of AC/DC, who just strutted around the stage in a schoolboy outfit, mesmerizing the crowd. These legends weren't just rockers, by the way. Many pop stars were phenomenal performers as well. Superstars like James Brown, Aretha Franklin, George Michael, Madonna, Michael Jackson, Tina Turner, and Prince were all terrific examples of the greatest performers of all time. Even modern artists like J.Lo, Beyonce, Bruno Mars, Lady Gaga, and Taylor Swift are clearly on par with many of the classic performers aforementioned. Going way back, who could forget classic performers like Chuck Berry, who strolled across the stage wailing on his guitar, and Jerry Lee Lewis, who actually set his piano ablaze back in 1958. Of course, who could deny the king of rock and roll, Elvis Presley, as one of the greatest performers in the history of music? The way he swung his legs while curling his lip was something the world had never seen before up to that point in time. Of course, honorable mentions would have to be made for artists like Elton John, Little Richard, Pete Townsend, Ray Charles, David Bowie, and the boss, Bruce Springsteen. Certainly, there's many others that I haven't mentioned, but I'd have to keep you here for a couple hours or so to cover them all. But I think you get the idea. If I had to choose my top 3 greatest performers of all time, I'd place James Brown at number 3, Elvis Presley at number 2, and the king of pop himself, the late Michael Jackson, would be my choice as the ultimate music goat when it comes to performing. And with that, it's time to say goodbye for now. I hope you enjoyed my debut episode featuring the greatest performers of all time. Until next time, I'm DJ Ray, and I look forward to seeing you again soon for another episode of Music Goats.